to
Go buy the
gain.
book.
Yeah, they must buy the book. Okay. So we're gonna try not to go deep into what's in the book. The first thing I want to talk about is the chapter we talk about relationship with money, our relationship with money. You grew up in Hlotse, right? Yeah.
My parents actually here.
Yeah. So I also grew up in Hlotse. Yeah, your mom told me she knows my dad. We'll talk about that later. Yes. So what I want to know is how growing up there shaped your own relationship with money, and why do you think it's important for us to understand the relationship that we have with money, and what does that mean anyway? Relationship with money.
So even in the book, I say a lot of people don't identify themselves with money, like in terms of a relationship. They think, oh, tjhelete ke something yani e sebediswang kapo e ke llang ka yona once a month, or e ke senang yona, or or something that one day ha ke na le yona, I'll start doing all these amazing things. But again, going back to exactly your observation, Hore, for me, it needs to be simple. It's all about really focusing on yourself and what it is that you should be doing, right? Sorry, I just got distracted. I get distracted easily. So your relationship with money and my relationship with money growing up, my parents are here, or not. But I grew up in a household where I think specifically my mother was very honest with money. I think I was 8 or 9, was asking for all sorts of things, and she was like, girl, come here. And she showed me a pay slip, and I was like, what? How does this woman juggle all of these things, So immediately for me, it was the realization that, money is a powerful tool, but also money, you need to work for it. You need to work for it. And she can even tell you, and even my dad there, that if someone abatla 5 rand, I would say, you know what, hai khutle le 10 rand. I was the one demand in the house. But for me, it was, I think from a very young age, I realized how a powerful tool it can be. And so some of the things, even learning from my parents, was, it's a delay by, save for the things, my parents bought most of the stuff, they bought cash, which is something I think especially our generation is lacking. If ubatla phone, you want it today. I mean, we had that small conversation about buying a phone and how expensive phones are. If you want a car, no, the bank will fund it, and I'll see how I go through the month. But now I want it now. So I think for me it was, it helped me quite a lot, because I can delay gratification quite a lot. And literally people who know me will tell you that there's this Chevy that I've been driving forever and ever. And when I had my first child and only son, I remember one of my friends came to me and said, okay, Mapalo, because the prams, all these things, they need space. And I was like, but this person is this big. This person, why do I need a big car now? So I think your relationship with money has to be very personal. You have to know your own priorities. You have to know yourself intimately enough to know that I'm okay with or without the big stuff. It really is a very personal thing. You have to listen to yourself and see and say, what is it I want for my future?
And I think what's interesting for me is that we carry our, whether you think you have a relationship with money or not, you have it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a very subconscious relationship. And a lot of us carry whatever your parents' relationship with money was, you carry that until you interrogate it and then say, okay, I'm going to change, my view. So if, for example, I grew up where, my grandmother was always like, no, you must switch off the electricity, switch off every plug, very saving, And I realized that that was like my attitude towards money, that it's going to run out. So I always need to hold on. Like my husband, if he wants me to buy new things, clothes, he has to literally take me and say, okay, now you should buy new stuff.
So you're a hoarder?
Yeah, not even a hoarder, but like very minimalistic. Well, yeah, hoard money. Yes. If I have money in my bank account and it's piling up,
it must stay there.
Yeah, it feels good, and I feel secure. And so when I was reading this and, thinking about my own relationship with money, I realized, I am carrying someone else's relationship with money because I've never determined my own. Yeah.
Absolutely. Excuse me. And that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that they're carrying what they've been taught. Not even directly, okay, but we learn, especially as kids, and I'm very conscious about teaching my child also, what am I teaching him about money? Unconsciously we learn all this messaging about money, For you, for example, it was, switch off every light, you must do this, you must do that. Even this morning, my mother was saying, what did she say? I can't remember. She's like, chalete. I was like, no, chalete do anything. But you have to consistently be aware of the messages that you are telling yourself about money. Consistently aware of what you are saying in your mind about money. And if you don't, you'll end up going through life with someone else's beliefs. Beliefs that you didn't even want yourself. So consistently, anytime a thought comes through, you have to be like, hey, you know what, actually, I don't really believe this, but we've programmed ourselves so much that we don't question ourselves and we don't question our thoughts, specifically questions around money.
And another thing is that a lot of us as Basotho, we also have our own sort of national relationship with money. I always say that Basotho call money things like pasel. It's a... Yes, Tukisa wrote about that because we talk about it a lot, They call it pasele, kapo, romangwana, and then ore ke kopa menye, o betse menye o amphe anneletse ntwane. Ngwana o lata ntwane, ha tsebe le hore o tshwere 1,000 mona mo teng. Ha fihla o fana ka ntwane. There's like kids are just not even aware of money. What do you think is a way that we can start as a generation to first change our own relationship with money, and then as we raise up our kids, how do we help them develop a good relationship with money?
But exactly to what you're saying, Likeleli, is that you must first change your relationship with money, because how can you teach something that you don't know? So if you're trying to teach your kids something in okay, no, money, jena, but you instinctively, your beliefs go, oh, poverty, oh my God, every time, how can you teach your child anything else? Because actually teaching kids doesn't come from actively saying, okay, but they watch and they observe you as their parent, Even earlier, I was telling my dad, my son is 4 years old. And before, he would be like, no, mommy, I can't. And I kept on telling him, I don't want to speak to people who say I can't. It's either you are going to do it or not, or you're going to try your best. And halfway through, sometime then he'll be like, I can, or I'm going to try my best, So even that change. But you have to believe that yourself first, because there's no way you're going to teach your kids something that you don't know. It's just impossible.
But then where do you start? Because I think sometimes even someone talking about that, you need to change your relationship with money. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, Joe, this is what I believe about money. Get haba to be poor, get haba one day I'll wake up and I'll have nothing. Where do you start?
So exactly, that's the first thing, go in and say, okay, actually, what? Because also, the thing about money is that it leaves clues and patterns, your patterns over time. They show you actually what you believe about money. Where in your mind, you could be saying, oh, no, I believe in abundance. I believe, I'm going to be rich. But your patterns and your behavior, it'll show whether you believe it or not. Right? How you look at your life for the past 5 years and say, what have I done with my money? how have I handled my money over the past 5 years? It all rates out whether you believe what you think you believe, or it's, there's a lot of people, especially social media, and I this thing, oh no, think like a millionaire, or, it throws out these phrases that people say, but they actually don't believe nor practice in their own lives. So go back, look at your 5 years. It will tell you whether you believe that or not. And if the results are otherwise, then go in. It's time to go in. Likeleli, you've known me. And for me, I always say, go in. You can't go outside and look for all of these things. All the answers are here. They are within you. So go in and say, okay, this is what I've always told people I believe, but now I'm going to go back and actually tell myself, be honest with myself. And say, you know what? Actually, my relationship with money is a bit crappy. I'll give you an example. I used to believe all these wonderful things, but I realized that I'm a spender. But spender saver. Now I'm like, you know what? Holiday, it will come. Let's go on a holiday, man. Money is energy. It's forever circulating. It's gonna come to me anyway. So even that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. But am I saving enough, or am I investing enough so that those things that I like doing, I can do them over and over and over? So for me, that's what really money is. So I had to go back and say, okay, actually, I believe all of these things, but my behavior sometimes is not aligned to what I believe in. So every time I take an accounting, I'm going to put some money away for my investments. Then the flow once it's done. But you have to be honest with yourself. There's no way. You have to be honest with yourself. And I think that's where it starts. Honesty with yourself. Then you can say, okay, how am I going to make sure my limiting beliefs or my shortcomings, like for me, I'm a spender, but I know that when money is in my account, I know that I've saved. So when I spend, I don't feel guilty. So put things in place to make sure that you mitigate against your own weaknesses. Yeah.
All right, so lastly, on this topic of relationship with money, what I know a lot of women go through, like a sort of mentality that women have about money, is that someone else will take care of it. Before we're married, it's our parents, right? Taking care of everything. And then when you get married, if you're married, you're like, okay, my husband will take care of it. Or even before you're married, I know I used to say, I want to get married to a millionaire. Why? Because, it'll make my life easier. Then I'll be the wife of a millionaire and I'll just chill. And then one day I thought about, why am I not saying I want to be a millionaire? And it's because that it's responsibility. Immediately I'm saying I need to do something to create those millions. Why is it important for women, especially to have the right mindset about money?
This one always gets me in trouble because I truly always say, you know what, we want to be married and married forever, but even you, by sitting here, someone who's been divorced, or you have been divorced yourself. And that was never something you planned. I don't think anyone plans, okay, I'm going to get married, then get divorced. No one does that. But sometimes life happens. And for me, that's especially for women. I've met, so I do coaching sessions as well, right? I've met women who are still in relationships because they are not financially stable enough to walk away, even when that relationship no longer serves them at all. And for me, that's a sobering thing that, you don't want to talk about divorce stats and whatnot because people don't think those things apply to them or they will ever apply to them. I've seen one thing when it comes to statistics. People think, oh, I get statistics. I don't know where. Likeleli sample is okay. So once we start talking about statistics, people are like, yeah, those are other people. So for me, I always say that I know someone who's been divorced. Anyone here can tell you about someone who's been divorced. So the whole point of making sure that you are financially secure is that whether the relationship serves you or doesn't serve you, you can walk away, but you're not staying because you are forced to. I think for women, haholo because I mean, the gender pay gap.
Yeah.
You know, we still take time off, and it affects us quite badly when it comes to our finances. We really have to take care of our finances.
Yeah.
There's just no two way about it.
Yeah.
There's no two way about it, and not just divorce. Sometimes you're married, and as young people, your partner passes away. Then what? You know, I remember this lady. She was a much older lady, and she couldn't pay the bill yamutlakasi because her husband had always done it. You know, for me, I just felt like, you know, just to empower yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to say, oh no, what is mine, and what is yours, and you know. But really just being aware and knowing what's happening with your finances.
Yeah, I think I always make a joke about, you know, there are women that don't know anything about their family's finances, so much so that, let's say the husband comes, and I always say, I wish I was that type of woman, because I think I'd have so many things. Like if, you know, your husband comes and he says, oh, I've bought you a new Mercedes, and you're like, yay! You're not even asking, "O e rekile kang? Re tlo patala jwang?" And motho enwana, you know, if he dies, you know, before you or passes away, then you're there stuck with things you didn't know existed. Debts, you know, you're standing there because you disempowered yourself as a woman. I remember, you know, when WHP passed away. Yeah, and now the family was taking everything, the wife. That's such a common thing that happens, where a husband dies and then the family takes everything from the wife. And I'm always amazed that these things happen every single day. Like you're saying, we point to Khatse, but we know one person who has experienced this, but we still sort of just lay back. It's not going to happen to me. Yeah.
And that's the thing about finances. And I think even some chapter about insurance as well. You know, when you start talking about insurance, people are like, ooh, not me. You know, people immediately they block off until there's a need for it, right? So it really is just about, you know what, empower yourself financially. We all know that one person. And knowing that, you know what, should a bad situation happen or this happen, that you'll still be okay. I mean, imagine the grief that you're going through if your partner dies. Now people
On
start
top of that,
from left, right, and center, you know?
Yeah. And so on that topic, I think a lot of people, when they talk about personal finance, they think, like if I say to someone, you know, let's come talk about your finances. I like saying that to my friends a lot. Let's talk about, they do. I bully them. If someone is like, can you please borrow me like 1,000? I'm like, that's fine, but you know, why do you need to borrow 1,000? Let's talk about it. So, I'm that friend, So people think you're going to talk to them about budgeting. And that's it. But you've just spoken about, you know, what we've just spoken about covers like wills and investments. In a nutshell, what would you say is personal finance?
Yeah, I actually asked Hakele Alliance, what is personal finance, you know? And a lot of people came to me and said, no, ki budgeting.
Budget.
Or try budget how at the beginning of the month, whatever. I'm like, that's part of it, but the bigger picture of it. So personal finance is saying, if I'm okay today, 5 years later I should still be okay, 10 years later I should still be okay, 20 years later I should still be okay. If I'm retired, I should still be okay. It's literally planning. It's planning. It's planning your money so that you extract the best out of it. So if you're working today, your money should be working for you as well.
Yeah.
If you're working today, if anything should happen, you should still be able to maintain the lifestyle that you're kind of used to.
Yeah.
So it's really just about planning around your finances.
Yeah. And even beyond your life. Because some people live so well, they make a lot of money, you know, their kids go to the right schools, and then when they pass away, then
that's it.
They've lost control of that money and how it's distributed.
Yeah. So now we're even talking about estate planning. But it's really just simple. We don't even want to throw in the estate planning, big words, then people shut off and like, now we can talk about it. But it's exactly that. So I'll give an example. And it's so crazy when we talk about personal finances. So I remember when I was still a financial planner, when I used to still consult, this lady said to me, you know, the husband, you know, good person, family person, they had 3 kids or something like that. One day he says, you know what, I'm going to fix the gate, right? I'm going to fix the gate, got the electric fence when I or something. He climbs on, then like a small thing, a mistake happens, he falls, he breaks down, he breaks his spinal cord all the way down. I mean, there's someone who was a doctor, had everything going for him, kids going to good schools, amazing house, you know, like a life that everyone, you know, that you kind of want for your family. But he didn't have any of these things in place because he was like, no, man, I don't need these things. You know, I'm going to be fine. And now it means that the kids had to go out of the schools they used to go to. The medical bills start piling up. Your retirement, it's Leona. And so you can't even do that estate planning because there's nothing to plan around, you know. So for me, when it comes to personal finance, is the good time, make sure that they can last longer, even when the bad time hits, that you can still be okay. Yeah.
All right, and I think the why it's also important is because if you don't do that, someone else has to do it. Like if, you know, if say my husband and I, you know, have an unfortunate accident or something, our son has to be taken care of by someone. Yeah. So our lack of planning means someone else has to be affected, and we also see that a lot in our community, right? And this brings me to the subject of what is controversially called black tax. Yeah, and I say controversially because a lot of people obviously have different feelings about it. Some people are like, yeah, you know, your parents and your community raised you. You have an obligation to give back once you have found your success. And I want to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, I you know, even in the book I say, I know it's called black tax, but it's helping your family really, right? It's helping your family. And I do think we have an obligation. I do. I really do. I believe that we do have an obligation to help each other and one another. But
people are shaking their heads. It's a very controversial issue.
But, and for me this is a big one. I've seen people who, some people can be helped, and some you can throw as much help as heaven may come, but they will never receive the help. So for me, it's about accountability. Again, accountability. That if we are school, you need to pass. I'll give an example. When I went to varsity, yes, my parents were able to pay for most of the stuff, but my sister would chip in, right? My oldest sister. And I had an obligation as well to do what I needed to do at school. So I can't. That's money that they should be saving. That's money that they could spend whichever way they please. But here they are sacrificing that so that I can have a future as well. So 100% help out. It you know what? It doesn't take anything away from you by helping. It actually, you know, one of the principles that I believe in is that when you give, you will receive. But the person you're giving to needs to be accountable. Yeah. You can't just keep on giving and dishing out forever and ever and not seeing the returns. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. Actually, when you're helping someone out, it's an investment, and that investment must bear a return. So if you're here, you are just giving, and they are going to school and you don't even see what's happening, that's a bad investment.
So besides holding the other person accountable, because obviously it starts with you as a person, right? Besides holding the other person accountable, how do you manage your own finances better so that it's not a burden? Because sometimes I feel the relationship that people have with money, going back to that again, results in them being so overburdened by, you know, this obligation to help other people. So if, for example, you can't say no to people, people end up obviously taking advantage of you, or if you don't budget, then even if you are able to help people, but now you're overspending on other things, and I mean, this obviously affects relationships as well. So how can I, if I'm an individual who says, you know, I want to help, but I want it to work for myself and for everyone involved, how do you manage that better?
Yeah, sure. That's such an important question. So I'll give you a scenario, and I think I said this at the book launch. This guy actually wrote about it in the book. This guy's father said to him, "How? When every time you not like I did taxi, you're not, you know, unlike the other kids, you're not, you know, in your new car, you know." And the guy said, "No, but I have a property that I bought and I'm renting out." And he said, "No, I'm also looking to buy another property so I can rent out because I work so close to work, I actually do not need a car." And the father said, yeah. Property, but we don't see it, you know. We have to see that you've made it. You went to school, we have to see visually that
you need to tell the neighbors.
You need to tell the neighbors that
bona
ngwanaka o tsamaya ka sela sa ke sela mona. You know? And you know, exactly. And he had such a dilemma to say, you know what do I do in this case? I said, what do you want to do? You know, what are you building? Because also going back to what are you going to teach your kids about money? You know, are you going to teach them that, you know, need to build assets or take on liabilities so that everyone else can think that you're successful? That's one. But going back to your question, it goes back to that thinking. You have to be honest with yourself and say, actually, how much can I help my family? You know, some people help their family and their community so much that they end up with nothing, that they end up deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, you know. So sometimes I think we are a bit at fault. The fact that, you know, you can't tell your parent that, you know what, I actually earn only 3,000. I only earn 3,000, so maybe I can offer $500 because I need a place to stay. I need, you know, to do all of these things. I think also that expectation that, okay, we just go long jolly. Now you're just gonna make it. It's a false thing that, you know what, actually doesn't work like that. That you have to work many years before you see the light.
Yeah. All right. I want to get to some questions or contributions because I don't want to dominate the conversation because I know you know, a lot of us have a lot to share, maybe our experiences. So I'm gonna let Tukiso carry this mic around. You can ask a question or comment on the topic, and then we'll continue after that. I'll take about 4, I think.
Thank you. I'll start with mine. Thank you so much. Back to the last point we're talking about. For me, I believe it's a statement, not a question. You can't give, like Oprah says, you can't give from an empty cup. So if I'm earning 3,000 Rand and I really earn 3,000 Rand, I need to get to work, I need to look good, I need to take care of myself. How am I taking care of my siblings? I do have a responsibility, but I'm just saying, you cannot give from an empty cup. That's just my contribution. At this point in time, I'll take the 4 questions. 4 comments. Question number 1.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for everything. I've been following you on social media for well over a year, I think. And I was super excited when you were coming to Lesotho. So thank you for coming and well done on the book. My question is, as you said, we always afraid to ask questions. We're always afraid to speak up. We are so uncomfortable with talking about money. So as women, how do you think we can approach this topic? Even if it's just amongst ourselves, take responsibility for your finances. List I go track your spending for the month. Because you tell a woman to track her spending for the month, because after a week, this is just too much. Because within a week, you've spent more than you actually earn. So how do we come to that point where we get comfortable in the conversation of money and facing our truths about money?
Yep.
Thank you.
So I do this. Obviously, I'm definitely much more comfortable talking about money, but for honest conversations, look for people that you're comfortable with. You know, if you have a friend or a sister, but someone you know can keep your secret, if you want to call it that, because I think at the beginning a lot of people are afraid to talk about money, as you're mentioning. Say, you know what, so if it's a friend or a sibling or anything like that, say, you know what, I want to become better with my money. And currently, these are some of the things I'm experiencing. Are you comfortable to have this conversation with me? It can, you start with one, you know. Don't start now at a cocktail party, you're together, likapelo, liduzi now. Oh, when a budget do I you know, it's going to throw people off. So start with one person, have an intimate conversation and say, how do you feel about your money? You don't even have to discuss figures from the beginning. How do you feel about this whole money situation? Is this where you thought you would be? Is this how you thought you'd be handling your finances right now? You know, that conversation alone, trust me, it can open up quite a lot. And if you see someone is not comfortable, you know, then we gauge. But if someone is comfortable, it opens up to say, what budgeting tool do you use? You know, or have you gone to the website Mapalo, or, you know, but having that conversation, but I think specifically asking yourself, and because for me, that's the question I always ask myself and say, am I handling money the way I thought I would be at this age? You know, if the answer is no, then it means you have to have more conversation. But obviously, we'll see if someone is comfortable or not. But trust me, you will always find your tribe, as I always mention that, you know, my people are my tribe. You will always find your tribe who want to have that conversation with you. The right ones will want to have that conversation. But also, it requires you to be a bit vulnerable. You know, I think a lot of people look at vulnerability as weakness, but there is such power in being vulnerable. I've had the most amazing conversations with people when I'm vulnerable. So it's upon you to start the conversation. But you're here, it means that you're ready.
Interesting. And that guy at Capello, what's your budget like? I really am. Yeah. So I have a friend who was planning a trip to Joburg 2 weeks back. And the first thing I asked him, did you budget for this trip? And he shut the whole conversation down. So I'm that guy. Second question over here.
I think this is more of a comment, really. So the pre-reach part, I didn't get when I read it from the title, but I'm slowly getting that it's more about being patient and also understanding that you need to take that first step and understanding what options are out there. Interesting enough, just yesterday I was driving from my kids, they were visiting a friend, and then they said to me, Mommy, did you see Jason? Yes, Jason, their parents own the school that we go to. But Mommy, do you see that house? That's Jason's house. It's a very big house. But Jason take our money, our school money. I mean, our school fees money, and they actually do all these things. Have you seen their cars? Oh, and that hit me, guys. Whoa. It hit me, but I'm just correlating it to the pre-rich because it says to me, hey, Musa, a little patience, go out for the options, and we'll get there. Thank you.
Any over here and then back here? Okay, let me start here and then go that way.
Hello. I think, okay, this is a question. Like DK, I think I'm a bit of a hoarder. when it comes to my money. I just like for my money to keep piling up. So I want to know, how do I look nice, make myself happy? How do I know I can actually afford the things I like? And how do I spend on the things I like without feeling guilty?
So, so you're actually like my other sister. She's a bit of a money hoarder. She likes money piling up. She's happy when she has money, and I will be like, "Girl, come on, let's go spend it a little bit. You know, let's go on a holiday." So my favorite things are just like shoplifting and. So I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to see your money grow, and I mean, it also gives me quite the pleasure to see it grow, but I think for someone like yourself who's a hoarder, you have to say, okay, at what level am I happy? So, for example, say if my account has 1 million, I'm happy. Then you work towards that, right? Or if it's 10,000, you're happy, you work towards that. Then anything beyond that, you can say, you know what? If I have 1,000 rand more, I'm gonna take 50%, go spend it on myself, and because I like saving so much, the 500 extra, I'm still gonna save it. But I think you need to find a balance, because if you're just always saving, you know, but I actually having savings gives you freedom. You know, I think a lot of the times we work at the savings, we work at the emergency, or if a bad thing can happen. But also having money allows you, or when the opportunity comes, that you do have the money to take that opportunity. If a business opportunity comes, you know, but having money gives you freedom, not just for the bad stuff, but for the good stuff as well. So spend a little bit. Just a little bit.
Girl, you only live once, eh? You only live once. Yellow. There's one question here.
Okay, Kelu. Mine is a very tricky one because I'm a go big or go home kind of person.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to throw a party, it must be a party. If I'm going out, I'm not going to be asking how much a cocktail is. And if I'm saving also, I don't mind saving 90% of my salary. So my trouble is, how do I get to a point, balance, and say, I'm saving enough and I'm comfortable with my investments and my savings, and I'm also comfortable that I know how to, let's go for a book launch, I can afford the ticket and look good for the event. How do you find the balance between all the things that we want without, because you're thinking, when you're saving, actually, you're missing out on all other things that you could be doing with that money. Because I don't want to be 50 and have like many millions and have missed out on what I could have done in my earlier years. How do you find that balance? Be comfortable with everything you're doing with your money and not feel like you're sacrificing one for the other.
I like that. Go big or go home. So I think it can be very simple, right? I always say start with the goal. What is the goal here? So in terms of saving, so people will say, no, I'm just saving. Saving for what? You know, so for me, if I know my savings are going to meet my goals, or my investments are on track to meet my goals, then I can go out and have a cocktail and not worry. But I still will ask the price, though. I mean, I think that's just a responsible thing to do, to say, okay, actually, how much is this? Because also, by you not even looking at the price tag, then can you do that the same thing you did today, tomorrow, on the next weekend? Because you need to pace yourself. So by not looking, you're saying, you know what, I make out failure today. Next week, there's an opportunity to go, let's say, I don't know, another book launch or an event which perhaps can empower you. But Joelle, you didn't even look at the price tag because, well, YOLO, you know? So you do need to find a balance. But I think when it comes to saving and investing, look at the fact that, am I on track to meet my goal?
I'm going to take advantage, and just because I've heard both of you talk a lot of times, I feel like it would be a disservice to give people those practical tips just so people know I am a spender. I'm a big spender. Like Sanale Jemina somehow, like Maku Antane Huetsuwe. Yes. But the one thing that I think you two have managed to impart so beautifully, and I couldn't read the book because I wanted to have this conversation first. Yeah, practical day-to-day tips. The how part. Moshala. I don't know if you two remember, but you taught me how to save and to plan for Ntozo Ubatlang Hudietsa as a big spender without compromising your life. Kahore, there's nothing that you cannot afford. You have to work towards affording it. Those practical tips, I always find them important, but I am very bad at them. So I would love for you to give people those practical tips. Find a hobby that can make you money. If you want to be able to have cocktails without asking the price. How to you want to go to Zimbabwe and not sleep cocooning so that your gram can look nice. Find a hobby that will make sure that it will feed that particular part of your life. So I always feel like hangata in conversations like this, people elevate these conversations and talk about saving, whereas the reality of our lives is and you start thinking bophelo ba ka ka bo bona ha bo lekane tšhelete ne ke kgolang. So to come and talk to me about saving, ke kgola 6,000, ke na le bana ba babedi, what does that mean? So I think for me that was a big aha moment where you can still afford things. Like me mong ha ke sa ba hopola na ba go rekisa di hot dog mo sebetsing to be able ho ka etse manala le moriri. Like I always find like that is something that I find very different about the way you talk money and the way other people talk money. Yes, thank you.
Sure, that's such a powerful thing. So Hakila Alliance, and we're actually talking about this. I said actually whenever either you want to pay off your debt, you want to live your best life, or you want to invest, there's two ways that you can do it. You can cut down on your budget and cancel the DSTV, cancel all sorts of things. And sometimes people are so pressed that there's nothing to cut out. Secondly, the second thing that you can do is make an extra income. You know, I think sometimes we focus so much on the job that you do and you forget that you have skills and interests outside of your work that can bring you money. So there's really two ways of looking at it. Are you going to cut until there's no more cutting, or you're going to find another way to make an income? And I think especially now, living on one income is just not practical anymore. It's just not enough. So people have to start looking at their interests, at their hobbies, and saying, okay, how can I make money out of this?
And I think for me, that's where the power is. Like that empowers me. When you say you can do something about your situation, that's more empowering than, okay, cut down, you know. So going back to the budgeting, what is budgeting? Just in a few minutes so that we can go to the other nice topics. Yeah, what is budgeting and what role does it play then in living your best life?
So budgeting is really, you know, if you go back today and you look at your budget, it really tells you what your priorities are. So even going back to that question, you know, your relationship with money and looking back and saying, okay, this is what I believe about money. If Hana Jwalo, we are back to your budget. And actually, how many of you do budget here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask.
Is it a budget?
Some people are raising their hands like this. So I don't know if they have budget. They're like, I don't know. I think about it in my head. Yeah.
Actually, a lot of the times people say they budget, but it's actually saying, oh no, that's how people budget. No. That's not a budget. A budget, you actually have to put it down either on paper or somewhere on an Excel spreadsheet, or have an app or something to say, okay, this is how I'm going to allocate this money. And I found it quite startling that even when people think about their budget, I'll give you an example. One lady I did a coaching session with, she's like, yeah, no, we're thinking about buying a new house. You know, the one in Leona is just 2 bedrooms. We need a bigger one. And she went on and on. I'm like, so have you looked at your budget? She's like, yeah, no, we can afford it. I'm like, come, we need to look at this. So a lot of the times people add things to their budget because they have not really tangibly looked at their budget and say, okay, you know, we kind of budget, you know, on a bigger scope, like the big things. But it's the small things. Yeah. It's the small things that make a big difference. And one of the ways that I always say to people, you know, if you're not going to add extra income, one of the ways that you can look at your budget and say, where can I cut? It's the big stuff. People want to cut out the small stuff. The quickest way to reduce your budget is to cut out the big stuff. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. When we first got married, I said to my husband, I said, you know what, love? I don't want the same outcome as everyone else in my life. I don't want the same outcome as my friends. Do you know we moved back to his house for 1 year? For 1 year. And the amount of money that we saved. So for me, the big thing was, okay, we already have a property, but it was not big enough for a family now. And we cut back on that. So we had someone paying the bond for us, and we also had other costs that we cut back on hugely. So for me, I'm always like, you know what? What is that one big thing that you will do to change your story altogether? But a lot of the times, we are afraid, ooh, what will I you know, because now I need to come as this full package. I mean, for crying out loud. A lot of the times we're making these decisions and we are at the beginning stages of our careers. And we want it to look like, oh my gosh, I've made it. We have not made it. We still have years and years and years to go in our careers. For you to actually have that tangible success, I know that I'm comfortable. I know in my bank account I have money. I know I have my investments. Who was it? Who was it? Oh goodness, I can't remember now. The lady who invited me, your friend, Mary. She was saying, someone who fihlile ka koloi majabajaba, bukhogo money. You keep 40 rand now, $50. 40. Ha fihla mole, kati ya decline. Ya han. Then they're like, I motho sa motho a mo thukanete he koloi ne intle ke sure na le bothata e tla ha qeta o tshela ka mane o tla re fa tšhelete. Then wa bona this guy ha ba tlo tswa ka koloing o bothateng, you know. Then he eventually goes to the ATM, buy Lena. They're like, I know this guy. It's like, no, guys, actually, how high your chalet? You know, but to the world, you're looking like, sure. Top. You know. So again, going back, what is it that you desire for your life? What is it that what is the outcome? For me, I always go back. What is the outcome I want for my financial life? To look on the outside like I've made it, but you know, success really, or you know, you can't even do simple things because now everyone has to think that. And also, I think especially as young young people, this thing, okay, how Gata's going to fail, then you must look like. I can tell you, a lot of people are not successful as they look. Yeah. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's just so practical.
And I think for me, what you're talking about was what shaped my desire for personal finance, like personal financial freedom. At some point of my life, and ke hopola hore every time ho na le motho a hlokaetseng koloi ya elerensin e tla fihla e tlo lata di couch kore that was like a norm in the community. And so it made me hanse ke hola ke re no man, this is not normal, surely. It shouldn't be normal. And I think there are so many things like that, you know, it's a halang in our communities. Challenging, you know, why is it that we must all because that person probably didn't, have a funeral cover or a life cover. Normally that I think our generation has to start challenging, and that's why I'm passionate about personal finance.
But I'm so grateful because, again, our generation, they're challenging quite a lot of things.
Exactly.
A lot of things. And
Exactly.
I'm so proud of our generation. I know a lot of people are like, but I've seen how young people are challenging the status quo, and
Yeah.
it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. Do you think young people are very conscious about personal finance?
I think so. I think especially even throughout like platforms like this. But remember also, we were told, "Young skolong, then you'll be fine." We were
And
told-
now we're not fine.
and we are not fine.
And we're like, what's
we're
going
like-
on?
we're like, I thought I'd be a millionaire by now.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's conversations like, actually, how are we doing? But also the fact that there were no platforms like this to talk about personal finance before, but I think we are creating platforms like this ourselves as young people to say, you know what, actually things are not as rosy as we thought they would be at this age, and what are we doing about it? How can we empower ourselves? How can we start businesses? How can we, talk about money in such a way that we do empower ourselves? Yeah.
All right. I think just the last point on the budgeting, what I wanted to add was budgeting is not just about allocating what you have. It's actually even facing the fact that some of your needs exceed what you have. Because I think re tlwaetse fela hore ke na le 5,000 ke tlo etsa tjena ka yona. Empa o tseba hantle hore in a month I need 7,000. So it's being able to write that down and see it and say, Joe, ka June I'm going to need 10,000. Where is it going to come from? And that's where the creativity of how do I afford my life? How do I increase my income comes. So, and even people that don't work, they need to budget because they need to live, they need to eat, they need to pay electricity. So just putting down to live, and where do I want to go beyond that? Yeah.
I think I absolutely love what you just said, Likeleli, that it should spring about creativity, not depression, not it really should bring about, okay, actually my needs but this is only how much I have. So it should bring about the creativity, okay, how else can I make sure I meet all these needs that I do have, or even want? Yeah.
All right, you spoke about being debt-free. Is that possible? Is it possible to live debt-free? I wrote like a couple of questions here. Yeah, is it possible? Is it possible?
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
yeah.
going to ask people, is it possible to live debt-free? Yeah.
For some time. All right, because I've seen, hi Monaka Hola, the good thing is people don't have easy access to credit. Maybe it's a good and a bad thing. Financial inclusion is about giving people access to credit when they need it. But so people don't really have like credit cards, and home loans. It's not like not everyone will have access to that. But people have access to microloans, machonisa. And that's even the more expensive form of credit. So what is being debt-free and how do you go about it?
Yeah. So I never want to dehumanize people who have debt, right? Because debt could be in a form of a home loan. That's debt that, you need a roof over your head. And normally that type of debt is cheaper because banks look upon it as an asset and the interest rate they charge is not that high. So that's one. If you're going to school and you don't have funds to fund your education and the only way you can do it is through some sort of an education loan, you're going to advance yourself, do it, right? But now, the debt that we don't want, the credit card, the mashonista, the overdraft, the phahlo, tsena tse re di nkang bo Edgar, Silibokai. So that's the debt that you don't want. And yes, it is possible to be debt-free.
Why is it that you don't want that debt? Why do we call that bad debt?
It's bad debt because that's just you're flushing money down the drain. Because that type of debt, they charge you such a high interest rate. I know you were there at Alliance, and I asked, Horena, if you have debts, you don't have to raise them up right now and if you're comfortable, you can do that. But think about all the debts that you do have. Do you know how much interest rate is being charged on each and every one of them? You see, a lot of the times we don't know.
Yeah, it's good.
And that's what we do. Like, no, if I don't have to take care of it now, but you don't look actually how much does it cost, because the interest rate is saying this is how much it costs me every single month. And imagine if you didn't have that debt, how much would you be able to save and invest and just live your life the way you want to? You know, that's the debt that you don't want. That's just bad debt. You are literally throwing money away every single month.
And I know with clothes, like by the time you finish paying that off, it's a list scope.
It's even out of fashion. How's I bad?
But you're still paying for that thing that
that's
you're
the
no
most
longer
painful
wearing.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the most painful thing. Especially like that type of debt. So one of my clients in a coaching session, she's like, no, I took out a personal loan so you can do fair. You know, that's what most people lie to themselves and say they're going to do. No, then they pay half to go lotto, then they go shopping. Then they're even deeper debt than they were before, right? So it's also the habit, you know. It's also the habit. What drives you to debt? You know, you're impatient. That's what it says. That's the one thing you must accept about yourself and say, you know what? I'm impatient. How am I going to solve this? And debt just steals from you. Like literally, what's like in a debt, the credit card, the overdraft. You're stealing yourself every month. That's effectively what it is. So if you can start looking at debt in that way, that actually the banks are happy. Bomashuni said they're happy. But you are stealing from your livelihood. You're stealing from yourself. Then you can start thinking differently about how you go about acquiring stuff. So the patrozencha. How do you go about acquiring them? You know, I know a lot of people, you know, you want to look good on Instagram and people will go, babule, the clothing accounts. I mean, you go back to my feet, I've probably worn this outfit before. But I still look good, you know? So it's also going back. What are your beliefs about money? You know, I think one of the things I say all the time is that, do you equate self-worth, who you are, ulimutu? Do you equate it to how much money you make? Then you always be in debt. You always trying to, you know, please other people. Yeah. But if you can see your self-worth and yourself for who you are as enough, then you won't easily get into debt, I promise you.
Yeah. So I think for me, what is coming out from what you're saying is being able to live within your means. Yeah. So I know that there's a lot of us are probably part of mekhatlo and stuff, which is good. And I know in South Africa, people are using that to buy property, go to the modeling and mekhatlo. But what I've seen, the downside of it that I've seen is that people use mekhatlo to live beyond their means. Right? And so it really defeats the purpose. What could it achieve? So if man, you know, can only afford maybe to live on 3,000, but now and they just keep on borrowing and, you know, having to pay, and let me charge interest rate anyway. So yeah. I'm distracted.
Guys, this is how I make extra money.
Extra income. So if you use, how could people use existing things that they're already doing, like to get out of debt, instead of using it to get more deeper into debt?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what is it that you can afford, you know. I've seen people like, oh, I'm 10,000. Can I go when I was 12,000? You know, then wow, do me fell I 10,000 every month. You know, so go back and say, okay, what is it that I can afford? And I think people are so afraid to say, you know what? Nah, I give you 10,000. How about 4,000? You know, but I don't know what is it about people to be the one asking, nah, I can't do that. people are like, ba tlo tla ba reng jwale nna ke sa kgone. You know, ke tlo shebahala jwang.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. So you're going to put yourself in more financial strain when you are trying to do something that is good. Then o tlo qetella o hloile le batho ba nang tsore o modimo ba se ba mpatla tjhelete hape. You know, I mean, they didn't force you.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity and the option to say, you know what,
I won't be able
I won't be able to. And if, let's say, you can't afford your 10,000 and say, you know what, perhaps I can recruit 4 more people, then we can pay 4,000, but we'll have more people in bringing money into the pool. So you have to be creative. I think, you know, one of the things like I was saying with my son, as soon as you say can't or you just go with the herd, you block yourself from the creativity to say, okay, how can I solve for this problem? You but I'm part of my owner, but I can't afford that much. So how can I make sure that I'm still part of a community? It's a charity. But if I can't do that, how else can I make sure that this still happens? You know, as soon as you start lying, and as soon as you start saying, going with what everyone else is saying, then you're really depriving yourself of the opportunity to come up with a solution even.
Yeah. All right, so we've already spoken of having a nice car, you know, having a nice big house is not really, doesn't constitute wealth or being rich. So what is being rich? What is it when we say Bill Gates is wealthy or his net worth? What is being rich? Yeah, when can I say I'm rich?
I think it's such a personal thing, right? Being rich is, you know, different people define it differently. So maybe let's ask that question here, then I can just wrap it together.
Okay.
Yeah, what is being rich for you? What would it be? Lots of money.
So just 3 people maybe sharing with us.
Yeah, 3 people can share with us.
3.5. So being rich for me is when when my assets exceed, more assets versus liabilities. So I have an Excel spreadsheet where I have my assets and my liabilities, and I look at the net, the difference between the two, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm now at 450K, now I'm at 500, so the next 6 months I should be a millionaire, guys. Net worth. So let's ask around, what's net worth?
So what does it mean to be rich for you?
What does it mean to be rich for you? Okay, Bon. Yes, hello, welcome.
Well, for me, it's if I can sleep at night and know that tomorrow I don't have to worry about money at all.
Right.
Peace of mind,
2 more.
right?
Peace of mind, number 1. Anybody else? It's only ladies, safe space. Well, there's a few men. Safe space so you can speak up, you know. Likeleli said that ladies don't speak up, so I am going to challenge ladies to speak up. You said something. Okay, cool.
Okay, for me, being rich is waking up and thinking, I want to go to Joburg and not having to worry, having everything that I want within reach without worrying. That's rich to me.
Peaceful. Okay, great. More ladies.
I think for me, it's doing all of that, but also ensuring that my children will be able to just go to school, whether I'm here or not. Yeah.
Legacy. One behind me, yes.
Well, for me, being rich means being able to afford myself. That's all.
She's a yellow kind of girl. You only live once. Okay, so you have the context, so back to you, Likeleli.
So I think that's it, right? Being rich is different things to everyone. And also it depends on where you are in your life. So if you have kids, you'll definitely be concerned about legacy. If you're still yellowing, you want to wake up and be able to go to Cape Town. But I think at the end of the day is peace, number 1. You want peace. You know how many people worry about money? A lot of people worry about money. So it's that thing, I don't have to worry, number 1. But secondly, it's the lifestyle that I have now. If you're happy with your lifestyle or the kind of lifestyle you envision, you can duplicate it over and over. It does not matter what comes your way, but you can duplicate that over and over and over. And I know, we talk about vulnerable Bill Gates and, their net worth. And I mean, I've seen people who earn a lot of money, but yet they still have nothing, right? So it's about making sure that your money works for you, so that even when you don't want to work, you can take a week off and you'll still be okay. The cards won't crumble down. So being rich it's a really personal thing, but if you want to be flashy, then it can be multiple properties, multiple sources of income, that sort of thing that gets thrown around. But personal level is, can I duplicate the lifestyle that I have now, or the one that I want over and over and over again?
All right. So.
No, but Wena, what is rich
for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's explain ourselves here.
All right. So for me, being rich, I think it's Hanalia Pulani. It's about legacy. Creating wealth for not just me, but the next generation. Being able to give my kids the freedom to not have to, choose certain things that I feel I had to choose because I had to think about financial freedom. So, for example, I studied accounting. I hated it so much. I don't even know why. Yes. And I remember somebody from church saying, do I feel I'm called for this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, listen, here's so how I'm not called. How we let's go long, you must finish that thing. So I've just always had this mindset that, I have to do this because you'll earn a lot of money and you'll be able to afford, the things that you want. And I think maybe even now, I still love the fact that I have that to fall back on. Because that will bring me an income, But I feel I want to give my kids a bit of freedom around, If
so money is options as well, guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
they want to be
options.
Musicians. Give them a chance to be a very successful musician or not, without, saying you have to do this because this is what's going to feed you. And I think in general, when I look at us as a nation, because I love analyzing, all of us as a nation, I just feel that mindset has to change around what is wealth. It's not just me, I'm rich. Because there's a lot of bontate mamang who are really rich, and then when they die, body basic it's hadisana body festere, hey man, so I think we need to rethink even the way we build our businesses. They need to be like legacy businesses to continue beyond us. All right. So getting into investing, and I know we're touching on little things, but I guess we have the book, so it's fine. That's nanyona. We have to worry. What is investing? What are the different ways we can invest, and how does investments play a role in us building wealth?
Well, if we go back to what TK had said, if your assets are more than your liabilities, it means that your net worth is going higher and higher. And what are assets? What are assets? People always talk about...
Is my car an asset?
No, it's not.
I have a new car.
No.
It's very nice. So explain, yes.
So now you're getting into something different. But a lot of people buy a car and say, oh no, it's an asset. That you're driving it, it's depreciating every day, it's not bringing in income, it's not appreciating, you're not going to sell it for much higher than you had bought it for. It's not an asset. But on the other hand, if unali a 4+1, kapo Uber, kapo something that's going to generate an income for you, then that's an asset. But yours on to now, no, it's not. And so can I ask, is your house an asset? People are going to stab me for this one.
My house, where I live.
Yeah, if you've bought a house, is it an asset? It's what? Ego. That's what you call it, return on ego.
It's not an asset.
It's not an asset, right? Because you need a place to live. Unless if you were to sell the house, but you still need to find somewhere to live. So probably the equity that you're going to get from your house, you will use most of it to buy another property.
To live in.
So, I know.
Malaini are an asset.
Yes,
Yes.
Malaini are an asset, something that you're going to rent out and it's going to bring an income to you. That's an asset. Now, if you want to talk about the different types of investments, now you can talk about the unit trust. People have the pension fund as well. And that's what we're talking about at Alliance on Thursday. That even that is an asset, something that is growing constantly over time because of compound interest. But, I think the investment, we normally don't talk about diversification enough, right?
That
Diversification is, I think someone explained it, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So, for example, I know a lot of people, and I always make this example, that people buy a property. You must just put your money in property then. But if only property is a 10, and out of the 10, 7 don't pay you in that month, it means that the risk how is too much in one place. So investing in different things, so maybe for plus one, maybe you invest into a unit trust, so that your income is varied. So the asset is anything that will appreciate over time, or anything that is bringing you an income, not taking money from you.
Yeah. So one thing that I find interesting is, like, a lot of us here have pension funds, right? Because we have to have them. If you're employed, your employer is contributing to your pension fund probably. But people don't know how, like, they just know against her 500 or 1,000.
But people don't say kinta.
Bahula. Yeah, bahula bokana. But people don't know when they retire, like that money, let's say it's about 1 million or 500,000. People don't know that amount.
Yeah.
They just know that I have a pension, and one day when I retire, I'm going to have a return. And then they retire, and it's like, yeah. So how important is it? Not even how important, but how do you keep track of these things?
Yeah.
I think it goes back to taking responsibility. It's not in someone else's hands, How do you take responsibility for even building those assets? I love that Tukiso has an Excel spreadsheet. How else can people take responsibility and keep track of their returns? Do they even have power about where their money is? And what if the pension fund is not enough?
Yeah.
What can you do about that?
Most of the time it's not enough.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the conversation you have. A lot of people, my employer is taking care of everything. And that could not be further from the truth. So, Honorary Pension Fund, it is your duty to go to your HR and say, what does my pension fund look like? What is in this pension fund? Why are we investing where we are investing? It is your 100% right. And normally even your human resources, they'll give you forms every year to say, okay, which option do you want? Most people, I mean, it's the weirdest thing when it comes to money, that people will go to someone, like, your goals and my goals are not the same. Why am I asking you So you have to start taking responsibility, as Likeleli mentioned, and say, okay, I'm working. So let me see now, actually, where is it going? It's actually by law, they're supposed to give you a statement every year. Motoatola statement is a thing. Then we bear sleepy senakwana. And you don't think to yourself, okay, why is it not growing? Where's our land? People are afraid to ask tough questions. I've seen. I think especially Lesotho. I've seen tough. Even like when we have events like this, people are afraid to say, no, but I don't agree with what you're saying. But having honest conversations is important for people to go further. So definitely starts with, if you do have a pension fund, go and interrogate, what is this? Where is it invested? Why is it invested in here? What costs are we paying? And a lot of people don't know okay, their costs even in this investment funds. You know, what is it about? But I think at the end of the day, it really starts with wanting to be more responsible. I always joke that, you know, people used to say, no, bontate, they can handle money better, right? and this is really only because, it's only really because before, there was what you called a defined benefit. So the company, unotasebeletsa at this company forever, then you'd get an income from the company. But now, you defined contribution. As you contribute, you have the choices over now where your money is going to go. At the end of the day, you make your own decisions. So, okay, and before Bontate, then the company used to do that. But once they started saying, no, you make your own choices over you have options. Then it was like, sure, actually, we don't even know how to deal with this entire thing. So people used to think, no, men are better with money. No, it's because the companies take care of it. And now that it doesn't, it's facing all of us to make those choices for ourselves.
Yeah, I had a thought that I just forgot about retirement. My question, firstly, before that thought, I'll remember it, is as a young person, I'm only 30 years old, should I worry about retirement? Like, I feel like,
I think we all feel like that, right? And I remember money, if she could, I did this sort of like a craft, not even a craft, but like a line. Let's say you start working at the age of 25 and you retire at the age of 60. That's how many years of working life? 35.
35, yeah.
So you've worked for 35 years. So you retire at the age of 60 and people are living longer, medicine is getting better. So let's say you live up until the age of 90. So now it's 30 years. 90 minus 60, that's 30 years that whatever you have worked for the past 35 years needs to fund the next 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years is a long time.
It's like another working, like it's a whole career, yeah.
So if you do not fund this time enough, you'll probably still have to continue working. You know, so it is important. It does not matter how small, because over time compound interest works its magic. But if it's an asset, if it's a building that you're going to purchase now to make sure that it funds your retirement. And also, when you think about retirement, there's not one way to save for retirement.
You know, there's just pension.
It's not just pension. But already start thinking, you know, how am I going to live in the years that I'm not actively working?
All of us think we're going to travel the world, right? But kaing.
What?
Yeah, I think somebody explained it this way, and that always, you know, stuck with me. Okay, let's say you are, like, I'm a CA, let's say I'm a CFO of a, you know, big company, and maybe I'm earning, like, I don't know, 40,000 net. And that's what I'm used to living on every single month. I'm used to living on 40,000. And if that's the lifestyle that I want to maintain beyond, you know, 65, how am I going to afford, you know, how much do I need to save now so that I can afford 40,000 for 30 years, 40,000 a month for 30 years. That's how you actually calculate how much do I want to have saved at the end of my career. And the later you start, obviously the more, if you have to be saving 5,000 a month and you wait until you're 30 maybe, then you now need to save maybe double or triple that. So I think, to your point, the sooner we start, the better. The question to ask is, what lifestyle do you want to maintain when you're 65 and beyond? Do you want to travel the world? If you do, that money has to be funded right now. Yeah.
So it's basically asking yourself, what am I doing now to make sure that I'm still funded enough later?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can answer that question and you're comfortable, keep on doing what you're doing.
And if not, then
it's time to reevaluate.
All right. Okay, just a last one on investment. Okay, spoke about property. Okay. What does it mean to retire early? And what does it mean for me as a young person? Yeah. I know we all want to retire early. Millennials are very tricky. We want to work very little right now. and then we also want to retire very early. What does that mean? And what does it mean for my finances right now, practically?
So, there's this movement, by Bita Fire, right? People want to retire at the age of 45. And I think I kind of like the idea because I think as younger people, we don't want that traditional thing, you only retire at the age of 65. But it's saying, I'm giving myself the option not to go to an office. You will still probably be working, but you don't actually need to survive on a salary. You saved up enough to survive on the investments or the different types of investments that you do have. So retiring early is possible, but it means you have to sacrifice quite a lot from the get-go. You just don't retire early because, well, it happens. You actually have to work at it and say, okay, when do I want to retire? And what am I willing to do now to make sure that at the age of 45, I can retire? Because, how are you going to retire if you don't have money?
Yeah.
It's not practical.
All right. Okay, getting to second last topic, and then we'll take more questions and then close. Insurance. So I know that in Lesotho, the biggest, the insurance industry is really dominated by funeral insurance, because people understand that, like I said, it's our culture. When people die, we're going to bury them. I was actually shocked to find out that I can pay, I can cover you for funeral without you knowing. As long as if I know that, okay, she's my cousin, and if anything happens to her, they're going to look at me, I can go and open a policy in your name, just for that.
All you need at the end of the day,
death certificate, yeah. So it means, okay, we understand, funeral insurance. What, young people, maybe not, I think. I'm not sure if the younger people in here have funeral insurance. We do? Oh, okay, interesting. Okay. So my question is, what other types of insurance is there? And what is insurance?
So insurance is saying if things go south, there's some money that they can pay you. That's what basically insurance is. So a lot of people understand insurance in terms of their cars and their material possession. People will have insurance for their car and they want to have insurance for themselves. And who's the asset between your possessions and yourself? Who?
Myself.
Yeah, you. But do you have insurance for yourself?
I have funeral insurance.
No, well.
What are you talking about? What other insurance for myself is there?
So, I can only funeral policy.
Yeah.
Funeral policy, maybe 40,000. I think up to a maximum of 50,000 or 60,000. So that's funeral policy.
Cover funeral expenses.
Yeah, cover funeral expenses, then so cool after that. Then we still have to figure ourselves out. But beyond that, there is life policy. A life policy is a policy where we can take up to, I don't know what's the maximum haimuna, but it can be into the millions.
Yeah.
That when you pass on, your family will still be able to, your kids will still be able to go to the same schools, that sort of thing. But I think more importantly, I think especially as young people, if you don't have kids or anything like that, the most important type of insurance, I think, for me, is, your disability covers. Because, again, we go back to, Rebaladi states and we think, oh no, that's not going to happen to me, But what if it does happen? A lot of people are getting detroit disease and those type of stuff. Do you have cover to cover against those type of stuff? Because you are the asset. If you can't perform what you need to perform, then things will start falling apart.
Yeah.
So it's just a bigger form of insurance for yourself than just saying, okay, 50,000 to cover the funeral costs.
Yeah, there's a really cool one that I like, the income protector. What's that? You spoke about it actually the other day in Facebook.
Oh yeah. So the income protector is saying, what, if I'm not able to earn an income for whatever reason, I can still earn, I think it's up to 75% of your income. Because how cooler, it doesn't mean the household's expenses they are okay, 2 months later, re tla stop, then we'll commence when she's fine. Life continues.
Yeah.
Kids going to school, everything still continues. So income protection is saying, should anything happen, I can still earn a maximum of my salary to make sure that things are taken care of.
Yeah. And I think it's especially important now because people are working for themselves.
Yeah.
And now I'm working for myself. If I'm pregnant, I'm out. Like the first 3 months, I'm out of the game.
Yeah.
But you know, the bills are still there.
Yes.
I still need to contribute to my hushold.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we should think about.
Are you planning on having another one?
No comment.
Your husband look at you like...
Don't say yes. He's like, don't say yes. Yeah, no comment. So the last thing I want us to talk about is marriage and money, couples and money. How many people are married in here? In fact, not even married. Even Pinky just got married like 2 days ago. She's like,
born a newlywed.
yes. So not even people that are married, just people that are in relationships. In partnerships. You know, is it important for people to talk about money when they are in relationships? Yes. Do you guys talk about money? Yes. Wow. No.
Wait.
Yeah.
Maybe the better question should be, how do you talk about money?
Yes.
How do you talk about money? Because I've seen couples talk about money. So I think the better question is, how do you talk about money?
Yeah. So
how do you engage?
Do you mind if I pass the mic for this one? Yeah. It's something that is really particularly close to my heart. Thank you.
How? Not.
Baby, why are you looking at me like that? You can start with him. Ask him how he talks about.
Yes.
How do you talk about money? Okay, so I'm not in a relationship, so I don't talk to anybody about money but my friends and family. So how do you talk about money? In your marriage.
Ha ke robe morimpa o ska futsana futsi. Or how we talk about money. It's like, Stephen, do you have a budget? I'm like, yes, I do. Where is it? It's up here. I know how much I'm going to make, I know how much I'm going to spend, and I know the difference. It's going to happen. But put it down on paper. No, it's up here. And then I get in trouble. But then she helps.
So he's always in trouble, clearly. Okay, how do you talk about money?
We don't get to talk about money because I hide a lot of things. So, but I feel like there's certain issues that we need to discuss as women, and when we're dealing with our partners as well. I always find myself as an outlier when we talk in finance, because I realize that some of the principles that you've got in finance are not in line with some of the responsibilities that I have as a Christian woman. For instance, what you identify as investment is what I identify as sowing as a Christian woman. And it means I need to tithe. It means I need to provide for my parents, my siblings, and for the poor. And it is very difficult to justify that in terms of returns, because on my statement, you won't find money coming from God. It won't say coming from God. But I know for certain that an opportunity that came from Women in Finance, an opportunity that came from Inspire, it is all aligned to my sowing in that aspect. So I realized that every time Hare Kopani, because I'm saying, here I am with the principles that I have and the responsibilities, financial responsibilities that I have as a woman and as a child of God. But haki disheba, the principles of finance declare you need to what you're sowing, but on top of that, you can't and that is exactly what we do as Christians. I get to be in certain religions. I know Muslims as well do have certain principles, but maybe they will attest to what I'm saying. And it is very difficult to justify that to your partner, for instance, to say, I've sown this much, but I know hore Mapalo o tla mpha mosebetsi. It is very difficult because it's aligned to your belief. How do we start having such conversations as women? How do we start saying we are believers and what we're sowing can't reflect on your statement?
That just got very deep. Now we bring in finances and religion. Any other comments? For me, I don't go to church a lot, but I do. I will ask you for, it's not in that Excel spreadsheet though. So,
Kalebo. Potso itena, how do we talk about money with our partners? Okay. Na personally ke ithutile hore actually chelete intsha character ya motho hore na o mang, because money is emotional. So ha le qeta ho nyalana o tla bona hore ihlane, like May is saying, khana le di beliefs tsa rona tse fapaneng. So you need to work hore na re di sebetsa bang hore be ntho e le nngwe. Now that's a really ntho e le nngwe. So it takes time. Le hore neng o tlameha le wena ha o so tseba hore ke a tseba ha o ka thwe ke lo lokisa koloi, because bontate when it comes to cars re ka dula ka tlung sena motlakase a lokisitse koloi ya hae. So you need to o tseba hore boemong bo tjenana, how do I ke kokobetse motho wa ka, ke mo bontshe di priority tsa ka tlung hore no la ha koloi go beile re ka di taxi koloi mohlomong re ka I savela nako e itseng, because especially because re na le re ka dikoloi tsa kgale hae mona tsa mo Japan tsa re sa di insurance tse bilang di robe a di re qetela tšhelete. So ke nana ke fela ke hore ha re le di partners itsebe hore na matla ha wa kae o kgona o kokobetse motho wa hao kae le shebe di priority tsa lona ka tlung.
I think of interest as well, I'd like to throw in my comment is, I'm not married, by the way, but growing up, household versus the partner that I'll have is very different, and how we related and how my parents related and her parents related to money is very different. So how do we bring that into marriage? That's what I worry about.
Okay. Nante ke hlokometseng ke ya hore dintho tse ding ha di sa bue ehlileng di thatafatsa di relationship. So ke hlokometse hore taba tšhelete ehlileng re tlamehile ho e bua nako nngwe re ke se e bue to the very last cent, but re be open. Ke na le 6 years ke nyetswe, and qalong ho no le thata hore ye mong le mong a disclose eng hore na ho etsahalang, but hona tjenana re tlamehile re be honest. Ka nnete o inwele kaofela maobane I get it. So ha ebe neneng o inwele kaofela Friday, it means Saturday ka nnete o tlo tla unwa oros. I get it. Ke utlwe in thusa ka tsela eneng hobane neng ha e qoba detention tse already marriage sentse na le ditaba tse ngata, but ho ba honest le ba open ka taba tsa ditšhelete e le teng ka ile siyo na go ngwe re nana hore re bua ka tšhelete ho bane le teng le ha ile siyo ga tšho a engwaneso e hle re tlo ja ka mahitsa tsenyena wa tseba situation ha re bua e etsa gore motho re dule re go re sentse re le conditioned. So ha ile teng ha ile siyo ha re bua ke go etsa
and go ngwe ba hloka or say no. How I feel like ka 6. So I'm gonna take one more, this side, and then the last one.
To Matt's point, yeah, it's important to boo. Okay, I appreciate that, but the actual doing is really not easy. And I think changing Motaka has to be in marriage, and I feel like in that part I struggle because, like we said, upbringing and how we relate to our parents, the spouse and the parents, it's very different. And to reach a common ground, it feels like it's impossible.
Okay, one more. I know time is of the valley, but this is good content for the second book.
I'm personally not married, but I do have people making engaged and who are married, and you realize that people want to have the conversation once they're married. Before we get married, we talk about your status, we talk about your exes, we talk about everything, but we don't discuss money. Haba qeta ho nyalana, mme o batla salary kaofela ya ntate. Utlisa karete, e tlo dula le nna, ke nna who's going to control the finances. This man had a life before you. What do you expect him to do? O so tlo mo dictatela hore na a spende tjhelete ya hae jwang. Ke mona ba batla etsa di secondary cards o sa tsebe. And they have extra incomes and they have all these other things tse mona tse ba reng ke tsa the side hustle that you don't know anything about. So I think the conversation needs to start back there. Ha santsane re jola ho santsane holy easy. It's ka ha ke batla ho tseba ka lapa le ba ke batla ho tseba le bitso la mme wa hao hore na o e sebetsa kae. But I should be learning hore what do you think about money? So mona nentse re tshwarere wa fumana re thabela hore na o nkisa kae on a date. The more expensive, the more excited I get. Unlike learning hore di spending habits tsa motho enwa e ka ha ke di bone hantle. Instead ke thabela hore o nkisitse mpilo botiki hantle sa baselos. It doesn't say anything to me as a woman hore monna yo kwa mofuta o fenga spendang hakale on a sebetsa bankeng, but he's taking you to mpilo where is king ke overdraft.
Can I just say something? Did you read the book? Because I talk about that the conversation doesn't start once you're married. You know, already I know a lot of people, controversial, the types of marriage contracts that you're going to get into. It starts before. You know, hosantsane huli easy, and you know they still want to impress, and so you know we can be pioneers of having that conversation. So I think you're spot on.
Okay. I can imagine, I'm walking to her. I can imagine a situation more. I have an Excel spreadsheet and apps. I've been controlling my finances the whole time. Now you want to control my... I'll definitely get a secondary card and block that one. So she's 2 days, 1 week, 7 days, newly married. So have you spoken about money? Congratulations to her. Have you spoken about money?
Don't put me on the spot. No, I think I've been fortunate enough to attend a lot of sessions about Tukiso Senyane, and then I followed you. And I broke into no, also because a lot of my friends got married at 23, and I'm only getting married at 32. So, girl, hi mona na ihlekela gabel hore be sale ke dula ntse ke batla ho botsa di questions tsena tse le hore basadi ba bangata ha ba di botse. So I had the talk le motho wa ka throughout mojolo, because obviously we had to plan body trip and whatever. So ke bone hore ha se ntho bobebe haholo ho bua ka tjhelete. Because also when I was growing up I thought o bear 50% mona o bear 50% be la Thailand, and then at this point I'm realizing actually e ka nna ba hona la bear 70 e mong o bear 30, and it's totally fine. So I think what I'm realizing throughout that long relationship with the 7 days in I'm realizing that it's so important, because unfortunately I've had friends ba monna ha ya hlokahala, she didn't know anything what we were talking about, the experience tse mona tse bohloko ha tsebe le hore fela na ka accounting hona le bokae, monna na na tjhelete ngata so much that inele na controla ngona re fela wena bona na o etsang ka salary ya hao. And hasn't to bobebe bile ha o sa nyalwa che, with my experience ho motho. But honestly, what are you doing with your money? Because monna o etsa ntho ngwe le ngwe. Because batho ba kwata, they say no ke reka makeup wa and what do you know about marriage because wena wa nyalwa. And so ke mo ke la ka ithuta batho ha ba buika dintho tse di relationship, so we should start talking about them. So I think I'm only lucky because a lot of my friends were married before me, and aba ke sheba experiences a bona ebe ke I don't want to be here. And then I was just like, I think I need to do better. Motu utla kwata, yes. But also the last thing I want to say, society, it's so hard to closer. The pressure that we have growing up, people perceive you in a certain way. I was saying to a friend of mine, Asebets ambanke, 100,000, because I sat down and calculated everything. It will cost me 120,000 for the wedding I want. I don't know, but you can afford, you have a good job. And I'm like, hane ke ile session ya tukiso le senyane, they said when you afford something ke tšhelete ka accounting, and in our account we have only 30,000 that we can spend. And honestly, these sessions I don't take for granted. I knew hore e le go tšhelete ke afford nke ke na le yone e seng ke lo kolota banke. And honestly, I'm safe to say I only spent 6,000 on my wedding. The rest is for the honeymoon.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We need to wrap up. We'll continue the conversation because Mapalo has to sign books now afterwards. Yeah. So Mapalo, what is the final thing? The final thing that you want to say to people from this conversation that we've had, and as they go and read your book and get deeper into these topics.
I think I always go back to the message that I always try to put out with Women in Finance and even with my book, that really at the end of the day, it is your responsibility what outcome you will have in terms of your finances. No one, you know what, here's a magic wand. Exactly to your point, you made a decision for yourself. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, but it was a decision for you, right? And that's what money or personal finance is about. It's about making the choices that suit you, and choices that are saying, you know what, I want my outcome to be such and such. We all walk different paths. And for you to take the expectation of the world and put it on your shoulders and have your outcome even be, then you are disempowering yourself. But I'm so glad that, like we say, we are starting to have these sessions. You made a choice. You are an outlier. But I promise you there are many more people who are making these choices for themselves. And you feel so much more happier. Yeah. So for me, the last message is make choices for yourself. Yeah. Make choices about money for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's break these generational curses of poverty. I think the last thing that I want to say, for me this is so personal because my parents passed away when I was like 12, 11. Yeah, by 11, both my parents had passed away. Firstly, when my mom passed away, I saw how she struggled because family members came, they took things from her, there was no will, there was really no financial planning on my father's side. And I think he was successful or could have been successful, if he had planned. And then my mom also passed away at the age of 32. So she wasn't thinking, I'm 30, I'm thinking, I still have, a long way to go. And once again, I saw how finances just played a big role, in our families' lives. And it's something that I see even today. Someone very young will leave behind 3 kids, and then the cycle just repeats itself. And these are not things that are normal. And I think as a generation, I think my challenge is to say, how can we contribute to making it better? And it's not just about us, it's us having those tough conversations with our friends and saying, I am not going to borrow you money. Let's sit down and talk about your financial situation. And having conversations with our children. I have a son, and God forbid my son is a burden to some woman, when he's 25. And this girl is thinking, why don't you have an Excel spreadsheet? I don't even understand that. It's not women's responsibility, to raise our kids, right? So I think let's also change the conversations that we have with ourselves. I think what I take from what you said, for me, that would have been an opportunity for you to have a conversation with your kids about, it's fine, let them have their big house, let them have their school, but this is our situation. I think that's important because then the kids carry that, in the future. So thank you so much, Mapalo. I'm my cup is full, and I'm sure, everybody is also appreciative of you being here. Now we want our signed books. That's why we're here. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So I have an Excel spreadsheet there. Yes. Yeah, we'll organize that. So Mapalo will sit right over there, and then we'll just I don't think we have to make a line, but I think we can just stand up table by table and go to her, can have a conversation with her, not too long, so that other people have a chance as well. So if you're in a hurry to leave, I'd suggest you jump to the front of the queue. If you're not, keep on mingling with people. There's probably still wine at the back and some juice. We'll all carry the books over there. Thank you.